Hey boys and girls, today we're going to learn about dividing fractions. So let's start with this. For the two examples that we're going to do, we're going to follow these 3 steps. So step number 1 is to create a story context for the division expression above. So our division expression is 4 divided by 1/5. So I've already made up a story problem for you, which is down here. As we read, we're going to make sure that we use our cubes method of problem solving, where we circle the numbers, underline keywords, box questions, eliminate any extra information, evaluate the steps we're going to have to take, and then we're going to solve and check. So it says Tim has 4 Hershey bars. He cuts each bar into fifths. How many pieces does he have now? So each bar is going to be an important keyword for me. I also wanted to make sure that I circled all the numbers, which is why I circled 4. And even though fifths is written in word form, it's still important that you circle since it represents a type of number. So now we're going to try to figure out how many pieces he has now. So we're going to go on to step 2 of using a visual fraction model to show the quotient. So I'm going to start by modeling my dividend. Remember, your dividend is what you cut up. Dividend is what you cut up. When you're writing a division problem, the dividend always comes first. It goes dividend divided by the divisor. The divisor is what you're cutting it up between or by. What you cut it up by. So for example, I know I have 4 candy bars. That's why I made 4 my dividend. And I'm going to cut each candy bar into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, I have 5 pieces of candy in each of the 4 bars, making a total of 20 pieces of candy. Now, these 20 pieces are going to be smaller than the 4 we started with. Each one is just going to be a fifth of one of the candy bars, but I have a total of 20. So the answer to the division problem, 4 divided by 1/5 equals 20. Notice how I'm getting bigger. Normally, when we think about division and we think about whole numbers, we get smaller when we divide. But when we divide by a fraction, our quotient is going to be larger because I'm splitting something up into even smaller pieces. Therefore, I can have more of them. Now we're going to try another problem. So if you look over here, I have 1/2 divided by 4. And the story problem that I created is down below. So let's again use our cubes method of problem solving to read through the problem to figure out how we're going to solve it. It says Erin has half of a pizza left over. She cuts it into 4 pieces. How much of the whole pizza does each piece represent? So I know that I'm starting with 1/2, therefore it's going to be my dividend. It's what I'm going to be cutting up. My divisor is what I'm cutting it up between. I'm going to cut that into 4 pieces. So now let's try modeling this. I have half of a pizza. So I'm going to shade in the half of a pizza that I've got. I want to cut that into 4 pieces. Now, if my question says how much of the whole pizza does each piece represent, I'm going to have to split up this other half into fourths as well to figure out my denominator in my answer. So in this pizza that I've divided into each half has 4 pieces, I have a total of 8 pieces, therefore that's my denominator. And each piece represents 1 out of 8 pieces. Therefore, if I took 1/2 and divided it by 4, my answer would be 1/8. Now notice here our answer gets smaller because we are dividing by a whole number. We might be starting with a fraction, but it's all about your divisor. If your divisor is a whole number, your quotient's going to be smaller. In the first example, our divisor was a fraction. Therefore, our quotient got larger. The last thing I want us to review today is the fact that you can write any division problem in the world as a fraction. And I want you to know what types of situations this might be useful for. I want you to take a second and write down these notes. If you want to pause the video, you may. Let's look at a situation where we might change a division problem into a fraction. So let's read this example word problem. Again, I'm going to be using the cubes method for problem solving. It said Billy had 5 friends over for a sleepover. His mom ordered 2 pizzas. So I have 5 friends, 2 pizzas for them to share. How much of a pizza could each boy have? Now here's something that's very important. Since our dividend represents what we're cutting up, we don't want to cut up the people. So I can look at this and I can tell this 2 is going to be my dividend. It's what I'm going to be starting with. I have 2 pizzas that I'm going to cut up. And something that's very important here is that there's Billy and 5 friends. So that's going to be a total of 6 people. So I'm going to divide those 2 pizzas between 6 people. 6 cannot be your divisor, or cannot be your dividend, because you do not want to cut up the people. 6 can be your divisor because that's what you're cutting it up by. You're cutting up 2 pizzas between 6 people. Well, if you were to look at that division problem of 2 divided by 6, you're going to say, Miss Greathouse, we can't do that. I have to cut up 2 to give to 6 people. There's not going to be a whole for every person. And you'd be totally correct. So what we're going to do is instead of trying to use division to solve this, we're just going to convert our division problem into a fraction. So all we're going to do is we're going to change the division sign to a fraction bar. Your dividend always goes on top, your divisor on the bottom. So again, dividend on top, divisor on the bottom. So I have 2 pizzas that I'm cutting up between 6 people. Now I've got the fraction 2/6. That's, believe it or not, your answer. Each person can get 2/6 of a pizza. Now we always simplify with fractions. So looking at 2/6, I know that 2 and 6 are both even numbers, therefore can both be evenly divided by 2. So my final answer should be that each boy should be able to eat 1/3 of a pizza. Now you may go ahead and you may complete the rest of your homework.